Welcome back to the Metal Exchange. This is Chris. I'm here with Justin, as always, and we have a very special guest this week, coming off the heels of the brand new release from Dragonland, The Power of the Nightstar. We have lead singer and founding member of the band, Jonas Heidgert. And I guess we can just kind of kick things off by asking you just kind of get into how the band started and just kind of how Dragonland began and how you got involved.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to keep it kind of brief, but started out summer 1999. Me and my childhood friend, we hadn't seen each other in like 5-6 years or so, and then we accidentally met up in a bar. And after that, we started hanging out. And then one day he just said, I'm thinking starting a power metal band. I'm listening to a lot of power metal bands now. It was a lot of Stratovarius, Rhapsody, and all those great bands. So and I heard that you can sing. I said, yeah, sing-ish, more or less. So before we actually had any real songs, we had a band, like in many other cases, and he wrote a few songs quite early, and we demoed them, and it took about half a year, I think. Then we started rehearsing, getting more and more members, Elias and some others, and we recorded the first album kind of like less than a year. I think it was less than a year after the band was formed.
And had you been singing for other bands at the time, or were you just kind of doing your own thing?
At that time, I only had been singing in one band, my first band, since I was a teenager. And when I got fired from that band, age 15, 16, I think, I sort of quit music. And then a coworker of mine had this garage rock grungy band, and they lacked a drummer. This was like 97 or something like that. So I started playing drums for them instead. So between 16 and 22-ish, I did no singing at all. And I didn't sing that well at that time either, so didn't miss anything.
So the Battle of the Ivory Plains, I know, comes out in 2001, and just kind of walking people through the discography, you'd release 4 albums in about 5 years. So you were kind of putting out material fast and furiously. And it's funny because when we talk to people, it seems like everyone has their favorite album from those first 4. No matter, depending on who you ask, you could get 4 different answers for those 4 albums, which is kind of interesting because, I think that as a fan that was kind of from the beginning, I heard the progression from the 4 albums as you kind of moved along through time. And depending on when you kind of found the band, that was always kind of like the album that you liked the best, even though I think that they were all very strong. Did you find that as well as you kind of began really diving deeper into, these like later albums?
Do you mean other albums or?
Well, like your albums, because as time would go on, those first 4 albums would come out, kind of one after the other.
Yeah.
But the popularity of the band continued to grow with each release.
Yeah, the thing is that when me and Niklas started out in the beginning, we had this clear vision of we're doing the power metal and we're gonna do this conceptual thing. It's going to be, we knew from the beginning that we're going to make at least 2 albums. So after that, we had actually, so after the Holy War, we had what are we going to do now? We're sort of done. So the other guys in the band started getting more involved in the songwriting process and everything like that. So instead of doing a concept album, we tried to do something new, implemented more elements into the music, and yeah, different stuff. Something less power metal-ish, but you could still hear it was like Dragonland. So yeah.
At the beginning, did you see yourselves as something of a band that would go on tour? Or did you have aspirations to go on tour, or was it more of just kind of like a let's go get in the studio, make an album, and see what happens kind of mindset?
To be honest, no, I don't think not in the beginning at least. We just just before we recorded the Battle of the Ivory Plains, we participated in a local competition, Gothenburg hard rock competition, if you will. When I played the drums and handled the vocals at the same time, and we managed to get to the semifinals actually. But then we just after the semifinals, we didn't go through to the finals. But on the same night, we got the. I'm not sure if I think it was a phone call from our first record label who contacted us and said, "Yeah, we want you guys." So something happened there, because in the beginning it was like, "Yeah, we're gonna release some albums," but yeah, that's it. It's more an outlet for our nerdy creativity, I guess. Me as a big fantasy nerd, for instance, it was like a dream come true, and I didn't really consider like touring that much. Maybe a gig here and a gig there. But when we got signed, I got this. Okay, maybe this could be something for real. But yeah, we've never been a touring band, anyways. So we hope to do more so in the future.
So I have to ask, and the reason, obviously the band would go on, they'd release Under the Grey Banner in 2011, and then we see this gap, obviously, for over a decade, and obviously the $1 million question is why? Because I know everyone is doing their own thing, but what was the inspiration for kind of getting back together to write this brand new album and then have the time to record it?
Well, I always joke about it a little, but it's some truth in it as well. We're a very lazy band, lazy Swedes. We don't like to work. We don't like to do anything. No, but we didn't mean for it to take this long. Obviously, I don't know really what happened. We sort of took almost a break. I mean, I got my first kid 2009, and my second 2011. The same year we released Under the Grey Banner, so I became dad for the second time. And we didn't really land any like big shows or any good tour opportunities after Under the Grey Banner. So just sort of didn't do anything about it.
Right.
So there's the laziness. And then we got this fantastic 2015 thing you're gonna bring up sooner or later, I guess, coming to America. And from there, somewhere, I think it felt so cool. And it's always when you're doing this cool thing, you get motivated to do it again. You want to do something, and we felt honestly like, okay, we can't keep on just going around doing these cool shows on this old stuff we did ages ago. We have to give people something new. So I think it was like back in 2015, 16 somewhere, where we started trying out some new material. And the first track, A Light in the Dark, actually was started being written, I think, back in 2016 under a completely different name. But the progress, it took a while. It was after the last tour we did in Japan, Australia, 2018, we got this huge push because it was so much fun to be out for some consecutive shows like that. And after that, everything just with the writing, and then we demoed everything, then we recorded it. So
yeah, and it's funny because I remember when the first single was released from this album, I was caught off guard because there had been talk, obviously, that the album was kind of being recorded and whatnot, but the single actually coming out was a bit of a surprise. And I think, and obviously, I speak for the fans when I say it got very, very positive reviews, and it got everybody very excited for what was to come. And that was just with the first, single that had come out. Did you feel that the response to that single was even better than the response you had gotten to some of the prior albums from a decade or more prior?
Yeah, just to add something to that, I was actually a little against the thing that to release singles and stuff. I'm the old school guy. I want to record an album and here you go, in your face. But now that I know the results and the feedback we got on all the singles, more or less, that was the right way to go. And the feedback, especially for the first one and the first video we ever have been recorded, it was way better than I could ever imagine. And I think it's a combination. Of course it's a good song, and our fan base has stayed with us for 11 years. And from time to time they ask, okay, is there a new album? Yes. When? Any year now.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So we have such a faithful fan base, and we're so grateful for it. So yeah, a combination of relief from the fans that finally, and that it's a pretty decent song as well. So yeah.
I mean, I could say from personal experience that the first single came out while we were in Atlanta for this year's Prog Power, and the first time I heard it was on the plane ride home. And as Justin would tell you, I'm not a big fan of flying, so it was great to just be able to put the song on for 5-6 minutes and kind of zone out and forget about everything that's kind of going on around me at that point in time.
So now you that particular song provokes anxiety and panic attacks every time you hear it.
I can assure you, I don't need the song's help for that. But I digress. How did you find that these three singles are released ahead of the album? How did you find the feedback from the fans and the critics for these three songs, kind of previewing the full length album?
The first one was the one that got the best reviews and the most positive feedback of them all. And I think, as I said before, it's a combination of relief that finally something is coming. We finally proved that we had something. And then everybody has been saying, at least, they loved all the singles up until release. So it felt very good. I haven't been checking out too much because it's not good for my ego. I can be a pretty horrible person if I get too much praise. So yeah. No, just kidding. That yeah.
How did the concept come out? Because one of the things I had pointed out to Chris is that those first couple of albums obviously had that medieval fantasy concept to it, but this was more of a sci-fi futuristic concept. And admittedly, with the album just coming out, I'm still kind of grasping the concept piece of it, although I think I had a promo and I was able to listen to it a bunch before it was actually released. To talk a little bit about the inspiration for the sci-fi futuristic narrative that's on the album.
Well, it's actually pretty simple. When we started recording the demos for the first song, A Light in the Dark, we still hadn't decided if it's gonna be a concept album or not. So it was more like Elias, are we going to do that? It would be really cool to have a concept, but as long as the whole album is science fiction themed and sounds science fiction, I'm good. So I think actually it's because of me that it became like this, because that's the only way I really know how to write lyrics. If I have I can drag the story out, and every song is a chapter, in a book or a scene in a movie or whatever you will. So
And talk a little bit about the songwriting process itself for the actual tunes. Is it that somebody in the band comes up with an idea and then everyone kind of puts their parts on top of it, or is it just files being sent? I know with now everyone seems to put things in Dropbox and just pull files from there, or do you just get in a room and kind of jam it out? I know everyone has their own process for it. Talk about Dragonland and how you guys come up with the album, the music itself.
Well, this is the thing. I haven't been present in any any composition at all, actually. But I know for a fact that most of the songs, or all the songs, have been more or less co-written with between Elias and Jesse. And since we live in a kind of small town, I think a lot of the writing has been done in their separate ways and sending the files back and forth. So I think Jesse have a song idea, he records a demo-ish thing and sends it over, and Elias tries some stuff on, and send it back and forth that way. And in some songs, like some of the ones that Elias composed, he has just written the song by himself. So, okay, here's the song, put your guitars on it. And then I got the text and say, okay, it's ready to do some vocals, and he has already written the vocal melodies. So I get a version with a vocal melody, so I can write the lyrics and practice. And
that was going to be my question, whether you kind of put out your own vocal melodies on top, or it's kind of it's gift wrap for you, and then you take your lyrics and put them on top. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So when you go into the studio to record, it's you already have an idea in your head as to what the lyrics are going to sound like, because everything's already there for you, and it's not. Got it.
And then just to be safe, we the past few albums we have always recorded demos on the entire album. So we have been given some more time to listen to it to ourselves and find variations here and there and improvements here, and this time it was quite a lot of things that changed to the album.
Oh, from the time that the demos were recorded to what everyone actually got to hear. Is that something that would ever possibly be released down the line so that people can hear the original compositions, or is that kind of in the Dragonland vault at this point, locked away?
No, I don't see any point in releasing it. Some of the changes have been sort of huge. In one of the songs, we actually put on an extra entire chorus in the middle of the song. On the demo version, it had another transition. But okay, maybe we should have a chorus. And in the beginning, I was like, no, because I was used to the demo version.
Right.
And I knew that I'm gonna screw it up if we were gonna play it live. But we did play it live this summer, and it still worked. So for me, the music writing is pretty simple. I have the chapter. I know where in the album the song's gonna be, so I know this is gonna be about that. So
that's great. And obviously, like I said, the album came out yesterday, and the reviews that I have been seeing have been nothing short of phenomenal. And it's funny because other bands have taken a bit of a break, and sometimes you are a little bit, I don't want to say disappointed with a particular release, but they may not be as big as you expected given the long wait. But I think that this is actually exceeding expectations, and people are just blown away by this release. Talk a little bit about some of your favorite tracks and some of the tracks that you think might be seeing their way into live sets as you kind of tour this album and play festivals and whatnot.
Yeah, sure. Well, first, let's do the favorite songs. We already played. We played one show here in Sweden this summer where we played part of the Nightstar, of course. No, actually, we played the singles. We did play the singles because when we played that show, part of the Nightstar was out, and we played on the release day for Flight from Destruction. And then we tried out the Scattering of Darkness as well. And it worked. But I think the point is that we're gonna be able to play whatever song from the album that we feel would be appropriate for that specific set. So that's what we're aiming at. To play all the songs.
We each week, Chris and I pick a song of the week, just our favorite song from the album that we covered. And one of the things that I think we both had a difficulty doing with this album was picking a single standout track, because it was so evenly distributed and the quality of all the songs was so high that it was difficult to say, well, this one is our favorite, or this one was the song that impressed us the most. Exactly. And that's so I wound up picking I think if memory serves, I think I actually wound up picking Final Hour, because it was towards the end and I hadn't picked anything yet. So I'm like, you know what, now's as good a time as any. I'll pick something on the back half of the album. Is it something that you could see yourselves doing an entire set with just this album? Because I think, with the concept and everything else, it could lend itself to doing a whole set with just, an hour's worth of this album.
That would be if we got the chance, in a heartbeat. Definitely. Now of course it would be really cool, but most bands they do this album exclusive shows every now and then, and what I've noticed is often it's an older album, or it's been requested that much, so they do this. I've seen it a lot at Prog Power.
Yeah,
returning bands coming back and they play just this album.
It's like a special set, or and to your point, it's often one of the albums that's held up in as the best, or one of the best that the band has done. So you had mentioned Stradivarius earlier. They came back and they did Visions, and they played all of Visions, that kind of a thing. Labyrinth from Italy played Return to Heaven Denied, and they played the whole thing. I mean, you can kind of guess for certain bands which album it would be. Not that it's necessarily their best, but it's usually that one album from back in the day. I don't know that we've had a band come over and do their most recent effort, but you guys are in a little bit of a unique situation, because there was such a gap in between the last album and the current release. And, going back, I can't believe it was 7 years that you were here playing all that old material. It seems like it was a lot more recent than that, but it was actually 7 years ago.
Yeah, time flies.
Yeah. So, you want to talk a little bit about that experience and what it was like to play the States for the first time? Because I know a lot of people that listen to the podcast were either at that show or are familiar with that festival.
Yeah, of course. First of all, for a non-American to go through the process of getting over to the States playing within the rules, that was a journey by itself.
Yeah.
We were this close to miss the whole shebang with a visa, and it still seems to be an issue, or so I've heard. But the trip was one of the coolest and most fun trips I've ever done. I've been once to the US before, as I said, on vacation, but to get to have the privilege to go over and actually play my own original songs in America, it was sort of unreal in the beginning. It took some real time to digest it when I got home, and to play twice.
Talk about how that came about. How you were asked to play again due to, unfortunately, another band having to drop out because some of the members couldn't make it over in time.
First of all, I feel so sorry for the other guys, because they're fantastic band and such wonderful guys. Like them a lot, and some of them were present at the festival for signing sessions and stuff. I felt so sorry for them. But when we got the question, the day after we played our original show, and getting can you play tomorrow again? And luckily for us, some of the bands when we played drew way above their time. So we had in the last minute cut our set from, I think it was from 45 to 30 minutes. We had to cut out a lot of songs, and I was really angry just be able to play 30 minutes when we had prepared for this for so long, and the effort to just get to the States. So it was good for us that we got the question, because then we could play the whole intended set list instead on the second show.
Yeah, that was kind of cool, like, as a fan, to hear, like, some different songs, because, like, I mean, a lot of bands typically will just play the same set list night after night after night, and so, like, while, I would have been happy to just hear you guys play the same thing, it was cool to hear a couple of songs that we didn't hear. I forgot, was it literally the next day, or was there a day in the middle, or
one day in between?
Yep.
If I remember correctly.
That I was saying to Justin that, like, that was one of the most snake bit lineups, but as far as, like, cancellations and visa issues, and it still turned out to be, I mean, it's one of my favorite prog powers, just because what the bands that did end up showing up and everything that kind of went down, once the dust settled, it still ended up being, like, a really great time, and I think all the bands really did great, and as you know, as a Dragonland fan, and I could speak for all the Dragonland fans, it was just a bonus treat to be able to go and see the band a second time, when we knew, like, God knows when we'll ever get to see this band again, and then we were like, oh, 2 days from now, that'll work. So that was cool. What was I was gonna ask one other thing about it. But yeah, go ahead.
One of the, besides playing, one of the cool things that I thought, like, I've been to a lot of festivals before, but this was kind of a unique. It's not enormously big, but I like the thing that everyone is like friends and sort of a family. It was a completely different feeling. It felt like sort of cozy somehow, to be able to just mingle around people, and people I've only met on Facebook before, and see them in real life. It was really nice.
I think that's the general consensus for most bands and fans that attend the festival, is that it just has kind of it's almost like a especially at the end of the night, it's almost like a party atmosphere, where you're just kind of mingling and having drinks and BSing with everybody, and I think, like, it makes people feel comfortable to just, like, kind of, I don't know, maybe you can speak to, like, did you find that people were just comfortable just coming right up to you and starting conversations and things like that?
Yeah, that was so cool, and I recognize a lot of people first from the profile pic on, like, Facebook and stuff. Like, I think that's one of my Facebook friends.
So I know that.
Go ahead, Justin.
Go ahead. No, please go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, now that the new album is out and everybody's, like, had a chance to hear it, how do you feel just about the album in general? Are you happy with the final product, and is there anything that maybe that you would change, or something maybe that didn't make it onto there, or do you think that this is pretty much as good as it gets? And I mean, I thought it was phenomenal. We both agreed that it was out of this world, and going to be in a lot of people's, like, lists at the end of the year as far as their, like, top albums go, especially if we're just talking about just power metal. I think a lot of people are going to have it as their top 1, 2, or 3 power metal album of the year, but I think it's going to be a lot of people's just in their top list. So, but as I know, artists tend to be a lot more critical about their own work than the fans are. So, how do you feel about it now that it's out there?
It's very soon after the release, but I have to say that on my own behalf, I think this is the one that I'm most proud of and most satisfied with my own performance, at least. It's always when you release something and then you suddenly, when you rehearse before a big show, you find a really cool variation on a chorus or something. Oh, why didn't I put it on the album? But since this took so long time and we did this, the demos were actually really good quality, and I did my vocals as best as I could on the demos, and listened to it a lot and found things that I could improve. Everybody did, and so I don't think if we had another 11 years, I don't think it would be much improvement, actually. I think everybody's very happy with the final product.
Do we have to wait another 11 years? Because I don't want to be 51 when the next Dragonland album comes out.
Well, I think it was 2006. We started spreading it out from Starfall 2004. Then it took 2 years to Astronomy 2006. And 5 years to Under the Grey Banner, right?
Now we're at 11. If I wait 20 years, I may not be here for the next album. So well, I really hope.
How do the math works? What would the next increase be? Like 15, 16 years, or?
Please, I'm asking you. I can't imagine pushing 60.
No, that means you're gonna have to listen to Carl Frederick for 20 years bug you about when the next album's coming out. So.
Yeah, and 15, 20 years I'll be in the nursing home anyway. So,
I know that you've done a lot of guest vocals on a number of different albums. I know that you did work with Northtail and Marius Danielson and a whole bunch of bands over the last bunch of years. Do you have any other projects coming out in the future? I know that we're obviously on the heels of this release, but just looking ahead, what do you personally have in store, maybe away from Dragonland, and then we'll obviously get to Dragonland's future, in a bit.
I have nothing recording-wise except that I have. I'm gonna finish Destiny's next release, which is ridiculously delayed as well. Trying to find a slot when I think I have 5 more songs to record vocals. And I don't know if you've already seen it. I've officially left the band, but I'm still gonna finish what I started, as promised.
Yeah, I had seen, I had heard that, and I wasn't sure, to be honest, if there was even a new album coming out. I think it's been about 6 years or so since the last release, something like that. But I'm glad that'll eventually see the light, because I'm sure fans of the bands want to hear that.
Yeah, when I made that decision, actually, I asked them, do you want me to finish the album at least, or do you want to start over with the potential new singer? And then I had recorded 5, 6, or 7 songs or something like that already. So they thought, okay, finish the album and attend to the release party, or at least. So they played, Destiny played the same show that Dragonland did this summer here in Sweden.
Oh, wow.
On the same day, so with I think 1 or 2 bands between. So
that must have been quite the workout for your vocal cords,
That's why I didn't do that gig with Destiny. It would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, you're part of a couple other bands as well. Do you want to just briefly talk about that?
Yeah, I'm in two other cover bands. One is very inactive. We haven't played any shows since I think 2016 or something like that. Called Metal Monarchs, and it's heavy metal, power metal covers, mostly from the 80s. As the focus, everything from Iron Maiden to Accept to Halloween to Judas Priest. Yeah. That kind of stuff. And then there's an Iron Maiden cover band as well. And we're highly active at the moment. Been doing quite many shows due to rescheduled shows due to the pandemic and that kind of stuff. So this year has been quite busy. So we're going to play 2-3 shows in November, and then normally we go on a little German tour every year, and it's planned for April, but it's strictly covers. So
what are your favorite Iron Maiden songs to sing as a vocalist?
Oh, to sing. The difficult ones, I would say, actually, and probably the ones that I picked out that I've told, okay, we need to play this one, because it's my personal favorites and it's always fun. But I like one of my favorites is "Infinite Dreams" from Seventh Son of a Seventh Son.
I love that song, and I think the Iron Maiden hasn't played that song live in forever. So I'm sure it's got to be a real treat when fans get to see you guys actually play that song live. I think it's maybe their most underrated song.
I don't think that the album has one weak song. Okay, maybe one.
Yeah,
I think it's track 6.
Yeah.
The dream is to be able to play the whole Seventh Son of Seventh Son album at one point, but it's the keyboard situation.
Yeah,
we don't really use backing tracks except for intros and that kind of stuff. And the past 1.5 years when we did shows, we played Alexander the Great, and it works in some places. Some people just go nuts, and at some places people don't. What song is this? Is this Iron Maiden? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the song, but some people may be looking at you like, why are we wasting 8 minutes on this? But, I happen to think it's a very underrated track. Iron Maiden recently said that they were going back and doing another tour with a lot of the Somewhere in Time stuff. And I think I even mentioned to you, Chris, on the podcast, maybe they'll actually play Alexander the Great for the first time in forever. So fingers are crossed. I know that they're coming back and doing that tour, I think, next spring. We're actually seeing them here in New York next week. So, but we'll have to wait for Alexander, I think.
Yeah, they're not going to play it on this tour.
Yeah.
Probably, I think they will play most of the songs that they didn't use to play live from that album, since they're gonna play the unplayed songs from Tenjetsu as well. So
exactly. And I guess we'll kind of go back to Dragonland. What does the future hold for the band? I think everyone wants to know. Other albums, we joked about it earlier, but other albums, touring plans, what does the next year or two kind of look like for Dragonland on the heels of this release?
Well, we don't have that many things booked, but we have a lot of things hopefully going on. I don't know a better way to say it. We're working on some things, and hopefully everything falls into place.
Great.
So I only think we have one show that's booked in Denmark in April, newly started Power Metal Festival. So we're gonna play alongside Blind Guardian and Dream Evil and Rhapsody of Fire and that kind of band. So strictly power metal.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be really cool. And some other stuff in the pipeline which we're currently working on.
Sounds good.
Do you have I maybe Justin asked this before, but obviously my brain is not working so good today. Did you have a favorite song from the new album personally?
Yeah, my personal favorite is Journey's End. The slow one. I like the mood, and it was one of the songs that it was easiest to write the lyrics for, because I knew how I wanted it to end, and it fit perfectly with this slow, very sad, melancholic tempo thing.
Like a very epic sounding track, and and I was saying to Chris, very well placed. You needed a track like that at the back end of the album, because it was going to be very hard if that was up front to kind of hop that. So it's well placed, at the end is kind of like the big build up to the final track.
Yeah. And the final track actually is not part of the story. Journey's End is in fact the end of the story. And for me, I think it was the song that I felt most comfortable singing, and I think that's where I did my best job on the album, vocal wise.
Talk briefly about there's a Japanese bonus track. We haven't heard it yet, but it's is it an Aha cover? Is that correct?
Yep. That is correct.
What's the name of the song? Is something TV?
The sun always shines on TV.
Yes, that's it. The band. I don't know if you're familiar with the Australian band Lord. They did.
Yeah, of course.
They did a cover of it not too long ago on one of their EPs, and it was like they do some out there covers. It's funny because like on that EP they have a cover of a Halloween song, but from Pink Bubbles Go Ape. You know, like everybody always does. The Keepers and whatever they did, Someone's Crying, which I think was a song that Roland had wrote for the band, and so I had never heard the Aha song before the Lord cover, so I'm kind of looking forward to getting a chance to hearing your guys' take on it, because I had mentioned on the previous episode we did that you guys do some cool like bonus tracks, like I was gonna most famously, I would say the Never-Ending Story cover from the movie that I was like flabbergasted when you played it on when you played it at Prague Power. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the songs we always use to finish the set with, because we know that it's one of the more popular things we've released actually.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it interesting because, like, I would say a lot of your albums are, like you said, it's a story, or it's some like even a rock opera, and there's a story being told. So to throw on kind of like a song that is just completely unrelated at the end, that's a cover song, I think is always kind of a fun way to just kind of to finish things off. So I look forward to hearing that. That's pretty cool. I just thought I would mention that.
You haven't heard the original?
No, I don't think I ever have. I've only heard Lord's version of it.
Yeah, I have to check it out because it's really cool. I wasn't actually sure when they said we're going to do this, which I've never heard of this song until I heard the chorus. But it's really cool because it's like the follow-up of Take On Me.
Okay.
Because the video of this song starts where Take On Me video ends.
Well, learn something new every day. I had no idea.
Really
That's
cool,
really
actually.
Cool. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I think "Take On Me" is the only song I've ever heard from Aha. I was just a baby in the '80s, so
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
But we won't hold you up much longer, but where can people find you? How can they listen to your work? All that stuff, basically plug all your social media so that people can find you.
Yeah, either our Dragonland Band Instagram page, of course, Facebook page. If you want to listen to the music, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer. I think most streaming platforms actually have it. And there's always this cheap version out there somewhere as well.
Yeah, I love it. We won't talk about that. We really appreciate the time. We look forward to hopefully catching you live again soon, and hopefully it won't be another 11 years before the next release. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Jonas.
Thanks, guys.